Villagers, thank you for love and support. I appreciate you all. Ivory Coast is at it again. As we are doing everything possible to move forward and unite and give ourselves the freedom, Ivory Coast has always been used against us. Our all in us always come out to tell us how Ivory Coast has allowed itself to be used against Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, and they are not stopping. Burkina Faso activist Alain Traore, popularly known as Alino Faso, was arrested in Ivory Coast. But the Ivory Coast government came out telling us that this man that was arrested in January took his own life in the cell, hanged himself. The question is, where did he get the rope? Were there not other inmates with him? How did he start it and nobody saw him to stop him? Was he having his own room? Somebody that was taken away from his family, only for us to be told that this man is no more with us. But the Minister of Information of Burkina Faso rejects this claim from Ivory Coast government concerning the 44-year-old man who took his own life in the cell, that this is not true. And Traore supporters are also rising against this. They also said they believe that the government is doing this to cover up things. Traore is vocal against ECOWAS bloc. He's always advocating for other people to look at what is happening in Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, for the leaders to also do the same thing so that we have a better Africa. This is something that these people do not want, you understand. They are always enemies of progress.
The government of Burkina Faso has learned, with dismay and deep indignation, death in obscure circumstances of our Alain Traore alias Alino Faso. In a statement from the public prosecutor of Ivory Coast, widely relayed on social networks, Ali No Way would die on Thursday, July 24, 2025, at the Gendarmerie School. Since the publication yesterday of information related to this tragic disappearance, the government remained mobilized and attentive to the evolution of the situation. He notes that until that very moment, no official notification was made by the Ivorian authorities on the death in custody of our neither the family of Alain Traore, nor his lawyer, nor the embassy of Burkina Faso in Cape have not been notified on CE, which is presented in the communiqué in like a suicide. The government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of LA Regional Cooperation, broken up from the outside, therefore summoned urgently the chargé d'affaires of the Embassy of the Republic of Ivory Coast in Burkina Faso for the purpose of explaining on the fate of our sovereign, which chargé d'affaires has, unfortunately, confirmed the actuality of Alain's death, Traore alias Alino Faso. The government is surprised that the drama occurred in a school of gendarmerie and in these circumstances, then, even as the Ivorian government had endeavored to deny the practices of kidnapping, forced summary execution, and torture on the coast. To Ivory order in the press, dated January 15th. All THESE statements of intent on transparency and respect for human rights contrast, paradoxically, with the dark management of this file, ended by death. More than suspected of our Alain Traore, the government wonders about the motivations. Actual possession of S in a gendarmerie barracks. More than 6 months after his arrest and without trial, it rejects with force and vigor the suicide thesis currently advanced by the Ivorian judicial authorities, who have shown with a guilty complacency in the face of to arbitrariness and denial of justice, of which Alino Faso was a victim. In this case, since his arrest, on the 10th day of January 2025, the government strongly condemns this disappearance, comparable to a villainous murder. He is outraged by this obvious attempt to truncate the facts. Indeed, while the death would have been noted on Thursday, 24 July, it took 72 hours for the information to be carried in the public space on the Faith, a press release from the public prosecutor near the court of first instance Abidjan, whose authenticity was difficult to establish. The government demands that the Ivorian authorities, Capt, without delay from the body of our sovereign, to entertain him for a dignified and honorable funeral. It is sensitive to the wave of disapproval raised by the brutal announcement of his death, in conditions reminiscent of the murders, barbarians and disasters of our age. He understands all the emotion. It's when he looks at it. DLA, Dimension de l'Homme, ET, in favor of humanistic causes, but invites calm and restraint. The government calls on the Ivorian authorities on the demand for truth and justice for Alain, whose tragic death leaves a grieving family in immeasurable pain, and millions of our rebellious and voiceless. With regard to the citizen commitment of man, the government reassures that it remains seized of this case on the detention and death of our and calls the Ivory Coast state, thus, that the Ivorian government has full transparency in the management of this case. The government remains committed to following up on this issue until the total event. Of the truth, it salutes the memory of a man of goodwill who has useful for his fellow man and who found in all his reason to live and die, to build a more fraternal world. The death of Alino Faso will not go unpunished.
These people have decided that whenever they see somebody preaching Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, he or she becomes the target of these people. The only crime he committed against Ivory Coast is preaching for other Africans like those in the ECOWAS, the democratic elected, to look at what is happening in Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, so that they can also implement the same things for us to have a better Africa, because the talking is too much. We've seen that these organizations are always giving us speeches whenever they go for their meetings, and they never do anything that is beneficial. We saw that when Niger decided that they were not going to be under colonial rule, these people in the ECOWAS bloc were ready to go and fight their brothers. Ivory Coast has become enemies of progress, that they don't want to let us have our peace, and they will always allow themselves to be used against our progress. So whatever that they want to do to Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, they will pass it through Ivory Coast, and it will be done easily because these people promise to be under colonial rule. We can never expect the president, Alain Ouattara, to be in the interest of the black person when the wife is a French person and their colonial master is a French person. So there's no way this man is going to do anything that will support we the Africans. How can you just take somebody 6 months later, you come back and tell us that the man has taken his own life? African youth, we have to rise up and fight against this. You cannot tell us that you are under democracy, yet you do not want people to criticize everything that you do wrong. If democracy is for the people, why is it that the people will rise up to voice out their displeasure about things and you will rise against them? The president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, told you that you should allow the youth and others to politics, because now we also need to contribute. So this is our own way of contributing to the development of Africa. When we see things going wrong, we all have the right to also voice out what we think is not going well in the continent. How can you just take somebody's life like that? How? And you expect the world to believe this story that you cooked for us. Arise, the African youth. We will continue to do this. This is done so that it will put fear in the rest of us. But we will not stop. We'll continue to preach and make sure we see a better Africa. The Africa that we want. The Africa that we want that you have failed to give us is what we are fighting to get. And we'll make sure that we'll get that Africa no matter what. We cannot continue to be slaves. Enough of the slavery. The time for us to also live like kings is now, and we'll fight and do everything possible in our power to make sure that we get it. Nothing is going to stop us, and there is nothing you do to us that will put fear in us. The more you do it, the more we come out together. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. In Africa, West Africa, in Ivory Coast.